Hello my guys, gals and non-binary pals to a new video of a new series here on Den Fatales. My name is Alicia, my pronouns are she, they, and here we're gonna talk about Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big Girls.
What's up, y'all? I'm that bitch.
Before we get started, let me thank our Patreons because without them we wouldn't be here. We're not at a point where our channel is even eligible for monetization or for any kind of sponsorship. We stopped doing the channel that we were doing before, so everything that they do, it's profoundly helping to keep us going, keep us do stuff for Den Fatales, and hopefully growing bigger, better, bringing you more interesting stuff. So if you're able to, and only if you're able to, if you're in a safe, comfortable place and you feel like you can spare $1, $2, $10, however much you feel comfortable with, you can check out our Patreon and join in. There are little perks here and there, but ideally we see these in a very socialist way, like you donate what you can, and then what we do is out helping you and people that cannot afford it, fundamentally. So yeah, if you want to check out Patreon or to do a one-off donation, there's PayPal. Now, let's get on to Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big Girls. Because yesterday I binged the entire series. Like, I saw a couple of groups that I'm part of on Facebook, like about fat studies and fat positivity, this kind of things that they were talking about it. So I just tuned in to just get an idea, and then it was 8 episodes later, and yeah, like 8 hours later and that kind of thing. I ended up taking notes because there were things that were happening that I'd never seen before and just shook things inside of me, basically. But already today, because I wasn't feeling great about myself, and to be fair, we're working on a lot of stuff for Den Fatales. We basically have 2 scripts ready for proper full-on video essays. We're already researching for a 3rd one. We have stuff booked for film next week, so there's a lot of stuff coming. I'm not feeling great about myself, so the idea of being on camera, not the greatest, not the easiest. The idea of living within my body, not that easy, but anyway. And so I already woke up saying, oh, but it doesn't matter, like, who cares about what I think? What anybody should care about what I think. But then I was scrolling on Reddit, and, you know, might be that Lizzo Watch Out for the Big Girls is out, might just be a coincidence because fat phobia is just such a recurrent thing that it just happens every day. I end up on Too Afraid to Ask, which is the subreddit where people with shitty ideas and stances on life decide to play the innocent victim, like, is it just me? I don't think so, but really, is it wrong? And this time it was about fatness. Like, oh, how is it that society is normalizing fatness now? I mean, it's unhealthy, no? Literally worded like that. I was the only one who actually put together more than 3 sentences trying to make a point, many points, about have you actually ever listened to people that are fat to try and understand what the issue is? Like, normalization is just us asking to give us dignity and respect as human beings because we exist, not because we obfuscate your concept of beauty from the vision that you have of the world. But that's asking too much. Like, it's really seeing the amount of downvotes that I got and seeing what the other people were saying, like, oh yeah, no, it's so unhealthy, it's so disgusting. It delivered that something needed to be said, because otherwise people genuinely go like, but you know, like, don't they know that it's unhealthy? Well, I'll make a point every time that I'm outside and I see someone that is fat to just look straight up and down there, making them feel uncomfortable because they shouldn't be comfortable occupying space like that. And maybe if I do it enough, they will understand and they will do something to lose weight, because I know it's so hard to lose weight, but they're not even trying. I wish anybody thinking like that to live one day in my body, without knowing that it's gonna be one day. Anyway, let's get on to the first episode of Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big Girls, becoming 100% that bitch.
We make the crowd go crazy. And still, we get hit with that judgmental shit. Time and time again, I'll play a show and people come up to me afterwards and go, "Oh, I don't know how you did that. I'm tired just looking at you." What you mean you tired just looking at me? They wouldn't say that to Beyonce. They don't say that to any other artist. So why you saying it to me? We all know why. Because you don't believe I can do this. But baby, let me show you. We come with the energy, the stamina, the flexibility. Big girls are doing it, honey.
I am not used to see those bodies unbrushed doing that kind of stuff. I remember in 2007, NME put on the cover Beth Ditto naked, and it was already like subversion of expectation if I've ever seen it. But I remember, and then it was Love, the magazine that likes twice a year out, and their first issue they had Beth Ditto naked again, a different poem, beautiful. But she was so airbrushed, and she looked so toned and full and put together, that even as a fat person I was like, oh, there's something wrong with me. My skin doesn't look like that. I'm all like cellulitic and knotty, and the way that I made it, my texture is nothing like that. Like maybe there's something wrong with me, which I think is one of the main issues living in a fat body, because there is no intention to show it anywhere culturally, because we don't know if even within a fat body what we are is normal or not. There's a lot of stuff that is hard to even understand if it's something medically correct or not, because we don't see it. One of my things was like, is my skin supposed to look like this? Because Beth Ditto's doesn't. And you might think this is very innocent, not realizing, though there's airbrushing, there's Photoshop. At the time, I was quite young and didn't necessarily think like that. So no, I just knew that looks nothing like I am. So seeing these bodies look like they are, with a skin texture like mine, moving in a way that I can't, with a stamina that I don't have, makes me realize that it's not just because of my size though. Like I could do that, I could try and reach for that. And certainly the issue is not my sizable person and the way that I occupy space in the world. So that's a first. And I didn't think that almost at 40 I could still have first.
My name's Kiana, I'm 27 and I'm from Austin, Texas. I've been dancing as long as I could walk, really, but I did not start dancing in a studio until I was 21. My dad was in the military when I was a kid, so I moved like every 2 to 3 years. It was hard to fit in, it was hard to make friends and do that on the fly. And so my parents let me set up a dance studio in our garage everywhere we moved. And so I would go in my garage and practice these dances I was seeing on TV, and then I would be trying to get down.
Fuck it up. Hey.
Picking up dance later in life has definitely been a challenge because I don't know as much as everyone else does.
Hey.
It feels really good to be here in spite of all that. I had a lot of people put me down or count me out, and seeing how far I've come.
When Kiana says that she had a lot of people count her out and put her down, I vaguely remember myself as a child asking once to be put in a dance class and basically being laughed at. Well, not quite laughed at, but the concern that my mother expressed by being around children that were not my size, and hearing her, she kept me off, trying to protect me. And I have seen pictures of myself as a child, amongst other child, much as I didn't have my proprioception as developed as it is now. I never realized that. Also, I developed. I grew. I was very tall for any age that I was supposed to be. So at any point in my life, up until probably my 20s, I was naturally twice the size of whoever was my age, in height and in width. So I can appreciate, if it was well intentioned, the idea of how can a body like that be amongst children that are half her size and look okay in a dance ensemble or stuff like that. So it's so satisfactory to see someone that was told the same basically and was like, you know what, but I want to do it. Fuck it, I'll do it. And good on you, Kiana.
Thank you so much.
Wow.
Okay. So catch your breathe. We're gonna get you some water.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, seriously.
Or we'll get you a water and a towel. Thank you, girl. Kimberly has an amazing smile when she dances. But what I also want to work on is stamina. You got to be able to stand there after doing all that choreography and hold your pose.
So I feel for Kimberly a lot because technically, you know, what if she's the kind of person that then people can go after and scream at, saying, oh, see, a fat girl can't even put a word out between breaths. But it shocks me to find that even in the concept of, in a group of 13 bigger girls, that's one case, that's the exception, that's not the rule. And, you know, fitness and stamina and breath, it's something you can work on if you are so inclined. So the idea that was always counted out that you're big, because you're big you have more meat to move, that is more of an effort, you will never have enough breath, you can never last with a lot of effort done like through exercise, through dancing. That's not true, but it was never put in front of me. And the only case in which it is simply because Kimberly is probably out of exercise at the moment. Like she said that she hadn't done dancing for a while, and then she resumed with these auditions for Watch Out for the Big Girls. So it's something that the idea that it's counted off based on our size, when actually it's an exception even in that case, upsets me because that's part of what, like, that's the absurd thing. Like, the world claims to want to make us uncomfortable because that way we'll do something about our bodies, right? We'll lose weight, we'll do exercise, whatever. In the same breath that they claim we don't have, they're still telling us, but with that body you can do that stuff. So how do you expect, like, there's no win. There's just no fucking way to win. That's the point. They just want us to disappear, and if we exist we have to be unhappy. There are feminist reasons behind that. Like, one of the points that I made in that comment that I left on Reddit earlier, which made me realize we need to talk about this stuff, because if fat people don't talk about it, we can't count on anyone else. And the only thing that we can hope, and I don't think we'll see in my lifetime, is that enough people talk about these things that the child I was 40 years ago will have someone now, existing now, that will show them you don't have to feel that shit about yourself. You can still do a lot in your life. You can do a lot in your life, no still, actually. Because the point is that the narrative of, oh, it's promoting obesity, it's unhealthy, I don't believe that even people that just parrot it to repeat it believe it. The issue is that they think if you feel okay and are happy and can wear clothes of any kind in that body, then being in what society considers a normal body doesn't give me any privilege. There's no privilege for me left. I count just as much as you, fat thing. So you better go back hating yourself, because in your self-hatred, there's validation for me not having your body. So that's a bit, you can see where the issue lies, when the point is people that I consider inferior has to recognize their inferiority, because otherwise they could think they are like me. That's the issue. That's what happened in that thread that made me think people need to hear these things, because they are too comfortable thinking, oh, we all hate ourselves. Which, don't worry, society has done enough that I can't change that for myself, but I can change it for future generations. You bet your fat ass that I will do it. I'll bet mine as well.
a hot mess.
Well, I have to say, you had one of the most impressive self-tape that I've seen.
Thank you.
Flipping all the way up in the air.
Somersaulting.
With
splitting,
heels.
Yes.
I was like, whoa.
That a body like Jayla's can move like that, and for what I knew, defy gravity. Why did nobody ever told me or show you that my body can do that with training? I didn't know. I thought that it had to be counted out.
I was like, whoa. So give me your background.
I started off as a gymnast, and I quit when I was 10 because I fell in love with dancing around to music. And then I started transitioning about 10 years ago and living authentically as myself.
Oh my God, congratulations.
Thank you. Being a trans woman in the dance world is tricky.
You ready to dance for me?
I'm ready to dance for you.
Let's get it.
Prior to transitioning, I was never masculine enough. And then when I discovered who I really am, I'm not the stereotypical feminine enough. And then, throwing being plus size on top of it.
We need to talk about something. So I have a soft spot for Jayla, sue me. It's because I'm queer, it's because I'm fat, it's because very close people to me are trans. I want Jayla to be my best friend, fundamentally. But she brings out something that I don't hear anyone else talk about, and probably at some point, we already discussed with Raven, we want to do a video talking about the parallels of being trans and being fat, and the parallels that there are there. We mentioned it here and there, but so if you remember from our first video essay, which was fatphobia and racism, specifically in the context of Italy, but the short version of that is that fatphobia is rooted in racism. It's a way we repackaged racism, because fatphobia, in the current way of acceptance of straight size being so thin, so size 0, 00, whatever, comes in the last 150 years. It's an evolution that comes from religious asceticism, and so the white puritanical America. And another way to differentiate themselves from Black people was the shape and the size of their bodies, along with the idea that you, to express devotion to God, you fast, you deprive yourself because your only fountain of joy is gone, whatever. And so the manifestation of fasting is a smaller body, so those are business cards of how devoted you are, and the more animalistic, the more savage you are, the more black you are, the fatter you are, and that's how things evolved. And now we pretend that we have forgotten. A lot of fatphobic people probably don't know that that's the root, but that's the root. Like, if you're fatphobic, it's rooted in racism. Like, you're also very likely also to be racist, but that's another story for another time. So when Jayla brings out that, oh, because I transitioned and then I get the accusation of not being feminine enough because I'm trans, and then I'm plus size, and that's also not being feminine enough, because something that every fat girl knows as well is that part that comes with fatness in today's society, which is absurd if you think about the Venus of Willendorf or stuff like that, which were thought of as fat as a sign of fertility, but in today's culture developed from the idea of fat being related to blackness, so coming from racism, is the idea that if you're fat as a woman, you lose entitlement to your womanhood. You are desexualized, you are a freak, you are a monster. The last thing that you could be is desirable as a romantic or sexual partner, which brings another series of issues that as fat women we are required to over-sexualize ourselves, and that's why the pin-up dresses, the overly done makeup, it's because so much femininity is already taken away from us because we're fat that we need to overemphasize it. See Kat in Euphoria. And in that sense, then it brings on even more the idea that any sexual attention, any romantic attention, even that it's sexual harassment or sexual assault or rape, becomes something that a fat girl needs to be grateful for, because at least someone even thinks about you in that way. So Jayla, I feel you, I hear you. I only have the experience of being mixed race and fat, being trans and fat. Everything in the patriarchal society is trying to dig at our identities to make us not feel entitled to just be who we are. So Jayla got to my heart because I feel so much of her struggle, and I know it either firsthand or immediately secondhand, and I want everything to turn on its head to give her everything she deserves in the world, fundamentally.
Work hard, have fun, and I will see you at the battle. Let's go. Let's go. Y'all better dance for your life.
You better dance for your life. I mean, Drag Race has stolen Black women culture basically for the last 15 years, so I think it's just about time that girls do it for themselves. Preach.
My name is Sydney. I am 24 years old and I am from the H, Houston, Texas. So I am a very competitive person. It's just in my blood. My family, we're competitive. Growing up, I would color something, and if it wasn't perfect, I would erase it and start over. I never lost anything. Everything I applied for, I got. Everything I auditioned for, I got. Being student body president, being a varsity cheerleader, going beyond the norm of what they expected a Black woman to be. So now it's just hard for me to cope when things aren't perfect.
So there is something about what Sydney shares about competitiveness that instinctively makes me slightly uncomfortable, just because for the culture that I come from, which is Italy, it's naturally a very petty competitive culture. I'm not quite sure that I can pinpoint to you why. I suspect it's something that we still bring with us from Second World War. After Second World War, there was still such a high level of illiteracy in Italy that I think everybody thought we had a lot of Marshall Plan influx of funding as well. So everybody thought of like everybody for themselves fundamentally. And at the time, for a lot of people, for boomers, fundamentally it worked because there was also all this injection of money from America. But we kept that very narrow vision of it's just me and sometimes not even my immediate family. Like the level of internal competitiveness is insane. There's always this perception that anything in life, it's one big pie, and anyone getting something for themselves in a way or another, even if you don't know how, it's taking it away from you. So there's this constant anxiety of being in constant battle and conflict with anyone and trying to take them a bit down, because it's not just the work that you need to do for yourself, it's the active work you need to do to bring someone else down, because that's what they think affects the entire pie and the more you can have. And it's a level in Italy that it's unhealthy, and personally I couldn't be part of. It's part of the reason why I moved as soon as I could, fundamentally, because that is not a context in which I could ever fight, fundamentally. But I understand also that Sydney is saying this from the perspective of a Black woman in America. Fuck. I understand the idea of she has to do things 10 times harder to get to the reward that a man or a white woman would be given. Intersectionality is important here, or it's more than everything. But I understand that I'm mixed race. I get white passing privilege if someone sees me, but when I was applying to jobs, especially in a place like Italy, you're not allowed to change your name ever for any reason. It's very fascist in that sense. It's actually something that remains from fascism, because they need to be able where you come from your name immediately. And from my name immediately, they knew that I was Egyptian, and they have a very poor vision of anyone coming from anywhere southern in the world than they are Italians. So I understand what it takes to have to work so much, twice as much, 10 times as much as a person that is white and is a man, just to try and get close to what they have. Legend has it that I am the only person that ever was hired at MTV in Italy in my days without knowing anyone. I sent my CV. It was a very original CV, fair enough, because being autistic sometimes pays off in the creative ways that you think things, but usually it's not appreciated in the business world, in the professional world. And I know even doing that at the time, that the merit of most of it was not with me, was with the hiring manager that decided to give a chance and to realize this is original, this is creative, this is someone that with this creativity can bring some things we haven't seen in our department yet. But it's a chance that it took, and I don't think anyone else should have taken it, would have taken it. And I think there's a general understanding about this person specifically that he was ahead of his time and beyond what we know that professionally works. So it's a chance that's been taken, and doesn't matter the amount of work that I had done, without that kind of vision on the other side, I wouldn't have got, like, simple as, because I see it every day in life today. So I understand the concept of having to work that much and not even being sure you're going to get it. So Sydney, kudos girl, I understand why you are putting so much energy in what you do. It scares me, the idea that you have to be first or nothing, because I cannot think of it that way for myself and think that I could survive. But I only have respect for the fact that that is the way that you could do things, and it paid off. Kudos to you, girl.
Lizzo's big secret, big body Benzes, it's the battle of the big girls. This is the real deal, ladies. I want to see you guys go all out. 13 dancers, 10 spots. Ladies, are you ready? Yeah! I'm having these girls battle in the warehouse because, of course, I want to see how they can kill choreography, but I also want to see how they can handle dancing in a high-pressure situation and how well they can work as a team, because that's what being a big girl is all about.
Okay, I understand. I am uncomfortable with the battle of the big girls because of the direct competition. I just said it, I'll just say it again. So one point that gets made later in the episode, I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's the fact that part of the reasons why you are a big girl and are then hired in the Big Girls of Lizzo is how much part of a team you are. And this provoking of two groups, one against each other, it's giving me a bit of anxiety. Just say.
Charity and Kiana. Hey! Hold up now. Hey! Kiana, great dancer, but I felt like she let Charity win in the one-to-one battle.
So Lizzo thinks that Charity let Kiana let Charity win in the one-on-one battle. However, when it starts, it's even Lizzo that goes, oh, because Charity goes a bit too in your face to Kiana. So the point is that Kiana doesn't get aggressive on the one-on-one. So I'll be honest, as I mentioned, I personally find it hard to watch people that provoke competitiveness against each other. I know that stuff like Drag Race has got us used to the fact that this is a game and everybody for themselves. At the end of the day, you sort of have to fight for your place. But that's the general narrative in everything nowadays. And if we don't show an alternative, it just feels a little bit incongruous to go slap that bitch 1 second and then we're all a team to support each other the next, and it's hard to espouse those two attitudes together. The only healthy competition, if you ask me, is the one that one has with themselves for personal growth, to be better than you were yesterday. The dance battle, especially the one-to-one bit, makes me feel like it can foster an attitude that's not about being good, being your best, better than yourself yesterday. It's just about, you know, slapping that other bitch down because you need to be better than her. In the immortal words of Teen Noir, there will never be a day that you will hear me speak ill of another woman. And the thing is, before I heard T say that, I was always afraid of, you know, female lead space, because again, coming from Italy, the pettiness, the cattiness is something that really always scared me, and nobody ever explained to me. It's a very clever way that the patriarchy pitted us against each other with the idea that being a woman is not that great. You're good when you're not like other girls, when you're better than other girls, because it keeps us busy fighting each other and not fighting them. And before T uttered it, I didn't realize. So see, now that I have that perspective to look at the world with, I feel like it's very important to bring more of those perspectives. Like, now I appreciate that it's just in this episode that there's the part of competition, because there's 13 girls, only 10 can go to Bonnaroo. So fair enough, they do the battle of the groups and the one-on-ones, because there are 3 girls that need to go home, because there's just space in the mansion for 10. I like that there is the not suspension of disbelief, subversion of expectations, because you think that there are 3 girls that need to go home, but you know what, 2 go home. One of them, unfortunately, is Kiana, which, as you can tell, I had a soft spot for. The other is Kimberly, because of the stamina issue, but those are things that can be worked on. The third one is Crystal. She doesn't go home though. She's too good already. She's basically offered the job on the spot, so she won't be in the mansion because she's already a proper dancer. You go and do rehearsal with the other dancer, you find a house, you move here. This is your job now. This is not just an audition or reality TV. And it's nice because there's the subversion upwards, which is unusual. And I like that kind of mood. And again, because this is the only episode that where there's actually a direct competition between the girls, I like that this is a new format fundamentally. Like, yes, I am uncomfortable with competition, but that's my thing, and that's why I'm highlighting it here. But this is also the only episode that has inner competition. Every other thing, it's about the personal growth of the girls, and the important thing is that they're a team. They need to support each other and be together. It's a sisterhood. And it's so wonderful to see. And I wish somebody had told me when I was a kid, when I was a girl, when I was growing up, when I was in uni, that I wanted that so much. But it's like I didn't realize why most girls were sort of watching their backs from me, and on some things why I would offer my help but people wouldn't offer me their help, because there's this culture between girls of having to watch your back and knowing deep down that it's not just in one sense of competition. Life is a competition and you need to best them a little bit. And I'm glad that we are shown that it doesn't have to be like that. It's why in this episode it made me a bit uncomfortable to have a direct sort of one-on-one. Maybe it's also part of, like it is in hip-hop and rap culture, it could be in dance culture, the fact that you go one-on-one, sort of like when you throw rhymes at each other and improvise. So maybe there's also that culture that I'm not acquainted with, so maybe that's part of what I don't get. But I just see that the direct against each other, and that scares me and makes me uncomfortable. But that's the only occasion in which it's there, which is amazing. I want to talk so much about the next episode, so fingers crossed. We're making this very, very... I know that people are supposed to do videos per week. I know that we haven't done it. I know that I like to do it, but I know that I want to talk about this so much that I would also like to be daily. So I'm not gonna go ahead of myself. I'll put out these videos as quickly as I can. This was for the first episode. There are 7 more episodes to go. If you're watching it, let me know what you think. Let me know who particularly spoke to you at which point. I am so excited to see these things because it's stuff that I live, but it's stuff that was never presented to me from the outside, and so it was either very private stuff or stuff that I thought I was wrong or stuff that I thought I was weird, and it's not, it just wasn't represented. So I can't wait to see more representation.